To the show, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it, as always.
Well, thank you, and belated happy birthday. I hope you had a great birthday this weekend.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I want to get to Bidenomics. I want to get to student loans. I want to get to a whole bunch of things. But the first one I want to take up, we've had quite a lot of discussion about it, and that is potential impeachment inquiry. As you know, the whole deal in Wilmington, Delaware has fallen apart. Now we have a special prosecutor, this David Weiss, who many people think is part of the problem, certainly not the solution. If you could just give us your thinking on an impeachment inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you, Larry. And to all your viewers, remember, the only reason you know of all this information is because we took the majority and we're holding the administration accountable. It is appalling of what we have learned. It is different than what President Biden had told us. He told us he had never talked to his son about any business dealings, that he's never been involved in his family's business, that they never received any money from China. We now learn while he was vice president, the family created 20 shell companies. They did receive more than $1 million from China, and he did call into the business meetings, and he did go to dinners. These dinners were very profitable. They got a new Porsche, they got $3.5 million. But the really most compelling thing here is there's somebody lying. We wanted to have a special prosecutor back in February, but we were told by Garland that there was no need for one. David Weiss told us he could do it if he wanted. But what he has told us privately with the IRS agents and what he told publicly, along with the Attorney General Garland, somebody is lying in this process. And the only thing I realize here is the only stories that have not changed are the whistleblowers from the IRS. Their story has held up time and again, and it really looks like there's two justice systems here. If the Biden administration continues to fight to withhold information that could really clear all this up, did they take bribes? Did they deal in the business? If they hold that up, we would have to move to an impeachment inquiry, which you know, Larry, gives the apex of power to Congress when it comes to our subpoena power and others to get the documents we need, the bank statements, the credit card statements and others. Show us where the money went. Show us where you taking money from outside sources. And that would clear most of this up, but they seem to fight it every step of the way.
I guess a lot of people are worried that because of this special counsel, that will impede and indeed even obstruct the investigations of Jamie Comer on the Oversight Committee and the other committees, Judiciary and Ways and Means. Will an impeachment inquiry cut through that, Kevin, or is it not important? Or how do you see that particular set of issues? Because a lot of people are worried about it.
If they use this special counsel to say that they can't provide us the information, then it just shows more politics, and it will not stop us. Then we would move to impeachment inquiry, and we would be able to still get the documents that we need as we move forward. They confide us, and Larry, I've never seen an administration use different form of government like this to withhold information since the Nixon administration. This is appalling what they're doing. I've never seen a person in elected office use their office like this to have 20 shell companies. You have 9 people in the family getting paid after you take certain actions. I remember what has been allocated or accused here is you've got a whistleblower that the FBI still pays that believes heavily in, way back years ago said that they are being bribed, the Biden family. But they never did anything with it, the FBI. You got IRS agents who's telling us they got treated differently, that the FBI actually warned Hunter Biden before they wanted to go meet with him. That here we have this Weiss, who is now the special counsel, literally let the statute of limitations run out on the most severe tax problems that the Biden family had, that they did you not disclose $400,000 and now get away with it without paying taxes? Nobody else in America was allowed to do that. And they knowingly allowed that to happen. They warned their attorneys before they would enter to find the papers that he had storage at a storage unit. That's not how they treated President Trump and others. So why is this special treatment here? And why can't we get the documents to prove that you're not being bribed, that you didn't get foreign money directly in, that you didn't talk to your son? But what we found now is the things that then Vice President Biden, running for president, told the American public is not true, and he's now had to change what he said. And now the big whistleblower action that we've now found too, he used pseudonames while he was vice president, where they CC'd Hunter Biden about discussions with Ukraine. At the same time, we've now learned that Hunter Biden was being pressured while he was on that oil and gas company, Burisma, about getting rid of that prosecutor. And you have then President Biden, in his own words, saying that he withheld $1 billion to get that individual fired.
So I take it, if I understand you, you, as Speaker McCarthy, have not yet made up your mind whether to actually launch an impeachment inquiry.
Well, listen, the thing that holds up whether to do impeachment inquiry, provide us the documents we're asking. The whole determination here is how the Bidens handle this. If they provide us the documents, there wouldn't be a need for impeachment inquiry. But if they withhold the documents and fight like they have now to not provide to the American public what they deserve to know, we will move forward with impeachment inquiry when we come back into session.
All right. Thank you for that. Just one other thing going on. Again, in the news yesterday and today, I don't know what it is. The Biden administration, the president on down, they don't seem to speak English, our mother tongue. The Supreme Court ruled you can't cancel the student debt, that the executive does not have the authority. And yet, Mr. Speaker, they want to cancel a big chunk of the student debt, which has now been estimated to be $465 billion. What is up with this? And by the by, couldn't you stop it?
Well, how many times does the Supreme Court have to tell somebody their action is unconstitutional? They are not a king. They do not have the authority. We took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Even in our debt ceiling, the agreement was in there that people had to start paying it back. That's what you do when you go out and borrow money and put your name on a loan saying you'll pay it back. There should be responsibility here. Why does the president want to give everything away? He doesn't have the authority to do it. He cannot move forward with this. And if we have to take action, and we have to go to the Supreme Court again, if we have to pass bills, we will show him what authority he has and what he does not.
All right. Back to school. Bidenomics not really working back to school. I know the year-to-year inflation rate has come down, but prices have gone up. The level of prices across the board in the last couple of years have gone up. You sent out a circular on this. You think Bidenomics is working for parents and school kids?
No, because they see it every day. Just the school supplies have gone up 24%. You want to look at the binders, you're up almost 50%. Everywhere you go, look at the headlines. Wall Street Journal, cars are now unaffordable. Mortgage rates are at a 20-year high. And this president is so tone deaf, he's out there claiming he's done something well. All he has done is harmed and weakened America. We make less money now. It costs us more than $700 every family based upon their policies. Think about it. You know this better than anybody else. You watched that all the incomes were rising from every different walk of life in America. They go in, the Democrats take the majority, they spend $6 trillion extra dollars, create inflation, they start giving things away, they break the supply chain, and then they've now broken our economy. Who is going to buy a new house at 7%? You haven't seen this in 20 years. That's why people now feel they're locked into the house they have. They have no other choice to go forward. You can't afford a car because the interest rates are higher. And now what we're finding, our own debt. We're having a hard time paying it because just the interest on the debt is now becoming so expensive based upon the runaway spending these Democrats have done.
Well, I had a little list that I've been using down through the weeks. The last couple of years, the CPI is up 16%. This is the level of the CPI. It's what people pay. And as a result, real wages have fallen 22 out of the last 26 months or something like that. Groceries up 19%. Gasoline, $3.85. It was about $2.35 when it all got started. So that's not good. Meat and poultry up 19%. But I've also uncovered from your office, I'm glad I'm not going back to school, sir, and wouldn't do that well anyway. Pens, Pens, markers, and mechanical pencils up 13%. Binders and folders up 48.5%, and crayons and highlighters up 18.5%. Now, we might make light of that, but that's actually what kids use and what parents buy.
Think about what parents are going through right now. They're struggling because they're making less money. But now their kids are going back to school. So it's not just the school supplies, it's the clothing they have to buy. And then if they have to drive them to school, it costs them more. They are struggling, and this president is going out trying to tout what he has done. If I was him, I'd be very quiet about this, because the American people see it each and every day, the pain he has inflicted, and now he thinks his family should live with a different standard than the rest of us, and what he thinks too is that he shouldn't be held accountable for all that, and that he can go against the Supreme Court. Well, you know what? He can't.
You know, it's funny. I think that one of the things the Bidens are missing, and I heard it from my friend, he's a longtime friend of mine, Jared Bernstein, who runs the CEA, is affordability. A very simple idea of affordability. I think they missed that, and the cumulative rise in prices over the last couple of years has been devastating. Last one, Mr. Speaker. As you know, there's a big rip-roaring debate tomorrow night. I don't know, this may be asking too much, but you think that the Republican candidates for president could go after Bidenomics, could go after his war against fossil fuels, could go after all of the alleged misdeeds and the mounting evidence on that, instead of just taking aim at Donald Trump? What do you think, Mr. Speaker?
I think that would be the smartest move by all of them. And I think whoever does that on the stage lays out the case. They will rise in the poll. There is a reason why Oliver Anthony's song, Richmond North of Richmond, why that has hit the charts, even beat Taylor Swift. He is a poet because he actually says the words that everyone is feeling right now, and they're hungry for it. They're craving it right now. They want to see somebody who will stand up to these policies that are killing them, harming them, from the gas to the pencils to the binders to the clothes to just out. Whether you can buy a new house or go get a loan, you can't get the new car if you're broken down. And they got a supply chain, they can supply one for you now. This guy is out of tune, out of touch, and I'm really going to watch this debate looking for the individual who lays that out best, making the argument against Biden economics and for a more prosperous America focused on America first.
All right, Mr. Speaker McCarthy, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it very much.